Hey everybody, Jake here with TrendSpider to go over the Thursday analysis into the last day of the week, Friday. And we've got some interesting stuff going on. We have a big breakdown on the SMA 20, on the SPY, QQQ, and XBI. So all three of the ones that we're watching today all really broke down through this level with increasing volume. So one thing that we can see is the MACD is starting to accelerate down. The percent range is starting to get oversold, or at least getting very close to oversold territory. However, that doesn't always mean that's the bottom. That can just sometimes mean that momentum has kind of reversed. And sometimes the RSI is really the one to watch for being oversold. Now, this doesn't mean that the RSI is going to get all the way to oversold territory again, but generally we want to see kind of a confluence of the percent range and the RSI both oversold to really confirm that bottom. So in this case, neither one of those are near the bottom. So based on what I'm seeing, just my opinion, we do have this very strong kind of support line here before we broke down. So if we do kind of go down to retest that area around 262 to 264, that would set up for a nice inverse head and shoulders here. We've got kind of the shoulder, the head, and then this would kind of be the second shoulder here on the right side. There's a lot of things that can also happen in between there, or this doesn't have to happen at all. But it is something that is interesting as we kind of map out this descending resistance and then this kind of longer term support area that the market kind of dipped and then bounced right back through. So this area will definitely be something to watch if we do continue down, and that's around 263-ish. Now, notice how the vortex indicator is also starting to converge here. The last time that really happened, where we had a long-term kind of divergence between the positive and the negative here, and then a convergence, that was the sign of a bigger move down, and we did kind of have a very similar setup here where we had a breakdown through the SMA, we had the cross here, and now we're really setting up the same exact way with the cross. However, the past doesn't always mean or predict the future. So that's just something that did happen in the past, and it is something to kind of watch going into the next couple weeks. Now, QQQ, this is more of obviously the NASDAQ side of things with kind of tech heavy, if you will. And we've got something very similar. We've got the breakdown of the SMA. We've got an uptick in volume here. The MACD is really starting to kind of accelerate to the downside. The percent range and the RSI are both very similar as they were on SPY. And we do have that vortex indicator also starting to converge here. Now notice there is some noise here. So just because there is a convergence doesn't always mean there's going to be a breakdown. And sometimes when you do have convergence here, notice here we broke down here with the positive down through the negative with this cross. That actually was kind of the bottom here, and it was really a fake out kind of breakdown through the SMA and then a move back up. However, this was still on a strong uptrend. We are trying to stay in that uptrend, but we are kind of trying to top out here again. So we'll just have to see what happens. Obviously, these are just my opinion, and I am not licensed or anything like that. Just trying to kind of show you guys how the TrendSpider platform works. Now, one thing that is interesting is what could happen before this area catches, similar to what we had on SPY. If we turn on the SMA 20 from the weekly candle, we can see that there is support right above this, and this really was an area that the price could not break through previously. So since we did break that area now back in late January, this could be the next area of support as we kind of had this status quo change through this longer term indicator. So all in all, if we do continue down, the first area that I would be watching would be the SMA 20 around 165 on Qs. And if that broke down, this area is a pretty heavy area of support as well. So all in all, not looking great short term, but sometimes that always means a buying opportunity. Some people look at things longer term, some people look at it shorter term. It really just depends on what your time frame is at the end of the day. Going into the last ticker of the day, XBI. It's interesting to see this one is kind of forming a doji right on the SMA 20 here. So kind of going back to what I mentioned a lot, which is the December move down. XBI was really the first one to kind of show a possible reversal. So we have that December 24th low in all of the broad markets. And this was the only candle that was showing some hope here, while SPY and QQQ both had a really ugly red candle here on the daily. So this doji does maybe confirm there could be some hope into tomorrow. However, we'll just have to see what happens here. If this does continue to break down, that SMA 20 on the weekly would possibly be the next area to watch. However, you could also turn on, let's say, the EMA 50 on the weekly, and essentially we are right there. So it's interesting to see how this shorter term price action really interacts with the longer term indicators. So we turn off the SMA 20 and we can see here that the price really bounced hard off the weekly EMA 50. So being able to overlay multiple time frames from indicators onto a single chart that's a lower kind of time frame is something that's really cool, because you can see the shorter term price action really being dictated by the longer term indicators and trend lines. So that is all I have for today. Kind of just to recap, we do have this kind of bearish breakdown across the board. MACD cross, percent range is starting to kind of move into oversold territory. And we do actually have the VI cross here on XBI, which we did not necessarily have yet on SPY and QQQ. So that's something to keep in mind. We can always have a fake out like we did here and then continue up, especially after this support right on the EMA 50 on the weekly side of things. So all in all, the market is something that's made to confuse people, and that's why not many people make money at it. But over the long term, the market generally does go up, believe it or not. Warren Buffett has kind of something going there. Anyways, we'll see what happens, and thank you guys so much for listening. If you have any questions about the TrendSpider platform, how to overlay any different indicators on a single chart, notice how we can do this with the fib line as well. We can overlay the weekly fib and see how that is also interacting with the price action as well. So there's a lot of things you can do on the platform. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. Have a great Thursday, and happy trading into Friday.